Then at this time, I'll call to order the regular board meeting of the Port Authority of the City of St. Louis for June 8, 2023. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Williams,
Present.
Commissioner Kay,
Present.
Commissioner Miller,
Present.
Chairman Bryant.
Present. And Janet, am I correct that we didn't have minutes in the package for approval?
That's correct.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we'll
we'll
take
have-
those up in July.
Yes.
Very good. All right, so I'll move on to Resolution 23 PT 18 relating to approval of Special Services, Inc. for certain security services for overnight riverboat cruises. Susan, can you walk us through that, please?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Special Services is a security service provider, and they use mostly off-duty police officers. They have a sub-consultant that is a security, also provides security officers who are not off-duty police officers, but are registered, vetted security staff. And so what we went out for bid because we have overnight cruise boat visits this year, and we're having issues with people that come down to the riverfront late at night and have a good time. And we don't want any unfortunate incidents to occur. So we went out for an RFP for services, security services. Special Services was the only one that responded. They've had the assignment last year and the year before, so they're familiar with what goes on and the riverfront, the conditions that are there, the streets and the gates and such. And so they submitted a proposal. We've looked at it, and the agreement for protective services is in your packet. We're requesting approval to sign a contract with them in an amount not to exceed $20,000. And there would be, they would have two, they'd have an off-duty police officer and the sub-consultant security personnel on duty from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. and then from 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. would be an off-duty police officer. And they would have control over the gates. There's a gate at Shoto and LKS that they would monitor. And if we need another, at the first shift from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m., we have the option to have two off-duty police officers if the situation warrants it. So that's why the dollar amount is not to exceed $20,000. And they did a good job last year, the year before, so we expect them to do a good job this year.
And what is the, if we need additional security personnel for the second shift, how would that occur?
They gave us a schedule of values for the staff that they would, the personnel that they would use. So the intent is to start with the off-duty police officer and the security staff the first shift. If we need more, we have their hourly rate. We don't think we're going to need it that often, but it's within that $20,000 lump sum, or up to $20,000 lump sum.
All right. Any questions from the commissioners for this resolution?
I would imagine if, and I would defer to my legal friends on the call, that we've officially now engaged ourselves in a liability should something occur, since we are technically a party to hiring the security firm. Whereas if we did not do that, it would be a stretch to name the Port Authority in some suit. Am I off base on that, or can someone clarify that?
Yeah, I think just speaking on behalf of me, I'll let Rob weigh in here in a second. But yeah, I think we would have an obligation to create a secure environment for the invitees that we have in the form of the riverboats. But Rob?
I guess I would defer to attorneys on liability issues, but
there's already maybe some potential liability by virtue of issuing the permit, granting the cruise ship to dock on the riverfront. So, but otherwise, I don't know. Is James in the room?
Yeah, there's always the potential for liability, but we've made sure that the contract language includes adequate insurance with additional insured provisions and indemnity. So if something does happen, special services will have the insurance to cover us and the obligation to do so.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
And my question is, this is just for the overnight cruises. This doesn't have anything to do with the regular boats that take out cruises in the evening. Is that right?
Yeah, you're correct. The Tom Sawyer and Becky Thatcher are operated ultimately by state, and by state has two in-house security people, and then when they have events, they'll have a third security person for evening events. So this is just for the visiting cruise boats from American Cruise Lines, American Clean Voyages, and Viking. And there, I think, we have like 13 overnight visits. So it's the 13 overnight visits. And when the visitors are here during the day, there's the security. This team is not on duty. It's just the overnight stays for those 13 visits.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And are there any other contemplated security measures that we're looking forward to in the future that would add to regulation of the area down on the port, the improved wharf?
Yes, there is. Yes, a Great Rivers Greenway, which has an agreement with the city's various entities to manage some of the events on LKS, hired a team to assess access to and from the riverfront in front of the arch. And so they have a gates and bollards study that they're getting ready to go out to bid for it. And the Port Authority, the Street Department, BPS, police, everybody's participated in the putting together that gates and bollards. And the idea is to have a number of intersections either reconfigured, reinforced, new gates, new narrowing of access points. So that's going to go out for bid shortly, I believe, and should be in place for next season. And the
Okay.
season generally starts Memorial Day.
Very good. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion for approval of Resolution 28 PT 18.
So moved.
Second.
And properly moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Kay,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Chair McBride.
Aye. And the motion passes and the resolution is approved. All right, moving on to Resolution 23 PT 19, relating to amendment of the contract with HDR Engineering.
As you all probably know, the Port Authority is attempting to redevelop the South Riverfront site, ultimately where the South Refuse is located. And there are three buildings on that site. One is the incinerator that has been abandoned and is not being maintained. It's a brick building. There's a trash transfer building. City garbage trucks come in, and a private contractor takes the garbage to the transfer is made in that building, and a private contractor takes it to a landfill. And then the third building is a maintenance shed. That's a big brick building. And the trash transfer building, it's important that it stay in that part of the city because that's the most efficient way to move trash from city trucks to the private contractor. And so we've located a spot for a new trash transfer building, for which we would like HDR to survey the ground. The site is just across the flood wall from the existing trash transfer building, and it's a former dog pound site. So there are three parcels just across it's not a flood wall there, it's kind of a levee. So just on the other side of that levee, beyond the flood wall, the floodplain, there's 3 properties. And the middle parcel is empty ground. And there's a road there, it has about, that clear empty ground has about 60,000 square feet. The current trash transfer building is about 17,000 square feet. And I've talked to the people that run the current one, and the trucks kind of back up, the circulation is real tight. And it's because it's next to the river and in a floodplain, there's some flooding issues that sometimes require the refuse division hire a diver to try to plug the trap into the trash transfer building because it backs up and you don't want the floodwaters going in there. And so a fearless scuba diver has to go into a flooding Mississippi River to try to plug that entrance to the trap. So it would help if the trash transfer center were not on the river. So HDR has already done a site survey for the existing South Refuse, and they have a sub-consultant that has done that, and it was part of their original contract. And so the first step, we think, is to survey the property on the other side of the levee to make sure that there's enough room for the trash transfer building and adequate circulation. There's already a road there, and we've talked to the people that run not only the South Refuse site, but Central Industrial, and they felt it would be beneficial to have the trash transfer building on the dog pound site because there's more room, we could get better circulation. And so the idea would be to have HDR do the survey and then come back to Refuse and Streets and say, here's what we have, here's what we could put there, does it work for you, what do you need, what's the most efficient use of the space, and if that is agreeable to the Street Department and to the Refuse Division, the Port Authority has, we have ARPA funding, we're up to, for this site, we're up to a little over $4 million to relocate the trash, build a new trash transfer building and start the incinerator demo. So, and that money comes from 50% ARPA and 50% port grants that we've received from the state. So we have enough, obviously at the moment, for HDR to do a survey. So that's what's before you now, is to do a survey, see what's there, see what we can accomplish there, see if it meets the Streets Department's needs, and take it from there if it does. So the resolution before you is to expand HDR's scope. We do have a price at the back of the resolution. It's the same firm that did the survey for the South Refuse site. So they're familiar with the site and they are on HDR's team already. So we would be giving them an extra scope. And we have the money for HDR's current contract, partially funded with FY23 money, and we have another, about half, and the other half, we have the FY24 money from state grants and an ARPA match. So I'm going to pause to draw breath. Anybody have any questions?
Well, yeah, that's, I mean, anything that's going to be more efficient than sending a scuba diver down to move a trap in the Mississippi River, I think is something we need to consider. The only question I really have is more the what they call the not in my backyard question is has there been outreach to the Dogtown residents about where this would ultimately end up if it were to be moved from the riverfront?
If it were to be moved, the building would be moved about 200 yards, 250 yards, and the site currently, the old Dog Pound site is.
You're saying Dog Pound, not Dogtown.
Yeah, Dog Pound.
Okay.
Sorry. It's already very industrial there, and the site is, the Dog Pound site is sandwiched between Interstate 55 and the levee. So
right. No, I saw that on the I saw that on materials. I thought somehow we were moving it all together. Okay, my misunderstanding then. And we don't need outreach to the former dog residents. All right, any questions from the commissioners to Susan on Port Authority Resolution 23 PT 19?
So I would have to vote no against this. I'm in favor of the first survey to tear down the incinerators on the current property. I'm not in favor of moving forward with relocating. I think this is more, I'm hearing more today than I've heard about this from Susan in the past. And Susan, I'm not for sure these conversations that you've had with the refuse employees or whoever they are, but as the director of the streets department, which in-houses the refuse facility, I think today I've heard some additional information that I think is wrapped up in this. I think you've talked to me about surveying and looking at properties, but this goes a step further than what I have heard about what you're trying to do in moving the South Refuge Transfer Station. So I will be voting no as the director of streets and the person that oversees the refuse facility.
When I first talked to you about relocating the trash transfer building, I asked if there was someone at Central Industrial that I could talk to, and you recommended that I talk to, is it Nick Baltuck?
I don't even know who that is. That's
Yeah, well-
nobody in my leadership.
Let me interject here. Susan, is there a timing deadline on getting this resolution passed? Do we lose money if it's not passed?
No, there's not. The man that runs Central Industrial, you
Well,
gave me
I
his name.
hear you.
though.
Well, what I'd recommend is if we could just table this and then have you speak with Director Williams and sort out
Okay.
any issues that are pending, which implicate streets. I think that'd be the best use of everyone's time rather than hash it out right now. So
Okay.
I would recommend that course of action occur. And Director Williams, should Susan be contacting you directly on this, or is there someone on your staff that she should be dealing with?
Yes, she should contact me, and then I will tell her who is in charge of the South Refuge Station as well as the Central Industrial Site.
Very good.
Okay. I'll do
Then,
that.
Mr. Morrow, do I need a motion to table this?
Yeah, that would be appropriate.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to table Resolution 23 PT 19.
So moved.
Second,
Properly moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Kay,
aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Chair McBride.
Aye. And we'll take up this resolution after the discussions occur with Streets Department. Moving on to Resolution 23 PT 20, relating to adopting a policy to disclose potential conflicts of interest. Mr. Morrow.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
so-
If you could speak up just a little bit, you're a little further away from the speaker than Susan was.
I also have a computer blocking the speakerphone. Does that sound any better?
Not really, but if you could just speak up a little bit.
Okay. I'll use my stage voice.
Perfect.
This resolution adopts a conflict of interest policy and a procedure for disclosing certain financial interests that might affect the Port Authority. Officers and governing members of political subdivisions, just for some background, that include the Port Authority, are bound by conflict of interest and disclosure rules that are found in Chapter 105 of the Missouri Revised Statutes. Per Chapter 105, certain disclosure requirements are triggered once a political subdivision's operating budget exceeds $1 million per year. So at the April meeting, the commission approved the FY '24 budget for the Port Authority, and that includes operating expenses that will exceed 1 million. So staff is therefore recommending that the commission adopt this conflict and disclosure policy that's based upon the Missouri Ethics Commission's template. So the policy articulates which persons and individuals must report their financial interests to the Missouri Ethics Commission. This currently includes the executive director, Neil Richardson, who's on the line, as the chief administrative officer, and any commissioner that has a substantial personal or private interest in the Port Authority's business, and that particular term is defined in the policy itself. So the Port bylaws also include conflict of interest language. I just want to make clear that this policy does not supplant those rules. It simply supplements and identifies under what conditions disclosures have to be made to the MEC. So with that, I'll take any questions if any of the commissioners have any.
Any questions for Mr. Morrow on this? And James, how does it change what's in the bylaws as they currently exist?
It doesn't change what's in the bylaws. The bylaws already state
I mean,
that
I'm
it is-
sorry, that was not a very
Right.
good question. Let me re-ask the question. How does this additional policy put additional restrictions on what are already existing restrictions?
So it effectively, it adds disclosure requirements to the MEC, and those requirements are triggered once the port has an operating budget over $1 million. So it requires annual disclosures by the chief administrative officer, who can use the short form disclosure, which he, to the best of my knowledge, already does for the Clean Energy Board. So there's no effective change there. And it adds disclosure requirements for any commissioners that have a business interest in any of the port's activities, which again, to my knowledge, none of the commissioners do. That would trigger a disclosure filing requirement.
Right, okay. That's what I had understood as well. Okay. If there are no further questions, I would entertain a motion to approve resolution 23 PT 20.
So moved.
Second,
Been properly moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Kay,
aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Chair McBride.
Aye. And the motion passes and the resolution is approved. All right, moving on to open agenda. Do we have anything in open agenda?
No, Chairman McBride, the only thing I did want to mention is I had the privilege of touring the Arch grounds with the Executive Director, Ryan McClure of the Arch Foundation. And one of the things that we spoke about was activating spaces on the port to bring more business and residents and tourists down to the riverfront overall. And one of the events I wanted to ensure the public was aware of, as well as the commissioners, is every Friday and Saturday, they have Walk in the Riverfront from June 2nd through July 29th. So if you all have a chance to come down and enjoy some free music, food trucks, and also the view of our great Mississippi River, I definitely recommend you all coming down. We plan to have some of our staff go down and attend some of the events so they can have a better idea of the great benefits and the amenities that happen around the port and the Arch grounds itself. So I just wanted to put that plug out there for the commissioners and for the public. Thank you.
Very good. That sounds like a fun way to activate the riverfront. Do we have anything else in open agenda? Hearing none. Thank you all. Our next meeting is July 13th. And at this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We are adjourned. Thank you all.